right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our HB pencil and we're just gonna start shading in the middle and fading it and matching this a little bit. And then we're gonna take this HB pencil all the way to the right-hand side. So we use our HB pencil a lot for this next section here. So we're gonna start off by shading as light as you possibly can. As light as you possibly can, really close together, stagger your shading, and you'll notice that for the most part, if you shade super light with your HB pencil, it is going to match what you did with the 4H pencil. So right now, I'm just shading super close with my HB pencil. I'm shading with the side of my pencil. I'm holding my pencil far away, so my hand's kind of at the end of my pencil. And I'm just gonna start off with a diagonal, super soft shading. If you go outside the lines, it's totally okay. I do that as well. And the reason why I go outside my lines when I shade light, it's simply because I wanna make sure I get those edges shaded in. So I'm just taking my HB pencil, I'm shading super close there, and I'm gonna take that all the way to the end. Just let it glide along your paper. You want everything filled in. If you have to go back through with more diagonal, that's okay. But it should kind of match that 4H that you drew. Okay. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna switch up our diagonal. I'm gonna move this out of the way. So I'm gonna go this way this time, but so I have better leverage, I'm going to rotate my paper and I'm gonna shade in that opposite diagonal. Again, you might be tempted to put some pressure on this. Don't put any pressure because you wanna be able to match that 4H that you just drew. So we're gonna do the opposite diagonal and just shade it in super close. Use the side of your pencil. It's okay to go over the line right now because you're still drawing super light. And what you'll notice as you're shading with your HB pencil, it's gonna feel like a little bit different than in your 4H. It's gonna feel softer. It's gonna have that feel that you're shading in a lot smoother. And that's because the HB has a softer lead inside. Or I should say graphite. Okay, so there we have it. I'm gonna go ahead and erase some of these lines so that I don't lose my edge. You can just face the tip of your eraser to the edge of your work. Or what I like to do is I just like to take just a regular piece of paper, line it up with the edge of my shape, just like that, and just really go at it with an eraser. And when I lift it up, it'll be a nice crisp edge. And I won't have to deal with any smudging or anything like that. So that's looking pretty good. If you accidentally erase too much, you can always take your ruler and redraw it in. But I'm gonna try to erase these without erasing my little notches from earlier. And you can always redraw your notches if you accidentally erase them. I just wanted to clean that up just a little bit before I move on to the next stuff. All right, so we went in both diagonals and now we're gonna go up and down. But before we do that, we wanna look at our gradient as a whole. You might notice there's probably a little seam where your 4H met your HB. What we're gonna do here is we can just shade a little bit diagonally in to this section and then shade in the opposite diagonal, but don't shade too hard, just very, very light pressure, and you can mix that in. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up and down. So I'm gonna start right where it says HB, and I'm gonna start to fade into the 4H section. Just gonna add a little bit of darkness. Again, because we're still shading light, if you go outside the lines, that's perfectly okay. But you're just shading up and down. And we want to see a gradual change from each little notch. So if you want you can move your HB a little bit into that 4H. And then after you get that done, you can start going up and down and move to your ebony side. Now, you might notice that your up and down movement, you might leave little gaps at the edges. That's okay if they're small gaps, but if they're really big noticeable gaps, you can easily fill them in by going up and down with the side of your pencil just in those little sections. So I'm just going to go up and down. And then now I'm going to go left and right, but I want to make sure that it's nice and even. So when I rotate it this time around, I'm going to start from the ebony side and just go up and down that way. My edges are a little bit hard to see, so I'm just going to make sure that my pencil is nice and sharp. And I'm going to just kind of take the tip of my pencil facing the edge of my shape and bring those edges back out, especially if they're hard to see. And then I'm going to start shading in this direction. So I'm going up and down. I rotated my paper. Again, if your edges are a little hard to see, you can move your hand just a little bit towards the tip of your pencil and push those back in. You don't want to outline anything, you just want to make sure that you can see what you're doing. And I'm just going up and down. I can go a little bit past that HB mark just to blend that in a little bit better. And then I'm going to rotate my paper again so I can also get this edge too. So I'm going to start in the corner and make sure your pencil's nice and sharp. I'm not outlining it, I'm just, the tip is facing the edge of my shape and I'm blending it inwards. And just re-establishing that edge so it's easy to see. Make sure you are shading with the side of your pencil. And at all times, like, I would be squinting every now and then just to see what you're doing and just to pick on the areas where maybe you needed a little more shading. I'm going to flip this around this way and the tip's going to face the edge this way. And I'm going to bring that out. Just like that. All right, I'm gonna flip it back the way it was. So right now it's looking really good. We're about halfway done, I guess. So as you can see, it goes from light, and then we probably should make this area just a little bit darker and blend this out. So as you're looking and reevaluating your stuff, you might find that you might have to add more layers here and there, make things darker. So that just requires more layers, more staggered shading. So we're gonna just add a couple more here. Yours might look really good and it might not need shading right here, but mine definitely does. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more here. And if you accidentally go too dark, you can just use your kneaded eraser. As I'm trying to shade it into my 4H, I don't want my HB to go to the point where it says begin 4H, because that would be way too dark. You want to stop before then. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to start using and adding pressure with our HB pencil. So I'll see you there.